men have traditionally been in short supply. It'd make good sense to explore a nursing career or other medical careers. Today, the medical field offers tremendous employment opportunities. For Des Moines General Hospital, I'm Jack Witzel.
Nature. Its beauty can't be surpassed, but we can come close to matching it. How close science can come to nature's perfection is important to a woman having a mastectomy who wants to be healthy and look normal.
Today, surgeons can reconstruct a breast lost to cancer. If you've had or are having a mastectomy, call us at Midwest Plastic Surgery Center.
The time to think about a beautiful future is now.
Play the TV13 Wheel Deal, and you could win a fabulous prize. This week, win this beautiful diamond and ruby heart-shaped pendant from Nelson's Diamonds. This pendant is valued at $125 and will make the perfect gift for your Valentine. Be sure to stop by for other Valentine gift ideas at Nelson's Diamonds, Ankeny. To win, watch Wheel of Fortune weeknights at 6:30. When you see the Wheel Deal on your screen, be the 13th caller with the right answer. Watch Wheel of Fortune on TV13 and win.
Time now to find out what's coming up at 6. Here's John in the newsroom.
Thank you, Jim. At 6 in 1/2 hour, we're going to have much more on the loss of that Winterset landmark. And Barbara Bush talks to our Kim Kerrigan, and Kim will have a live report for us. And I talked to her this afternoon. We're going to hear about the president's health, all kinds of things in that very special interview with Barbara Bush. So be sure to join us at 6 and 10 tonight. We'll have these stories and much more in 1/2 hour.
All right, thank you, John.
Finally tonight, some art and design students in Columbus, Ohio got a tough, heavy assignment. The students at Columbus were challenged to make a cardboard chair that could be suspended from 2 pegs and hold the weight of the 263-pound dean. The students could use no glue, only a single sheet of cardboard. After several attempts, the dean finally sat for a few seconds on his new chair. Let's see if that's the one that lasts. Yeah, a few seconds, he made it. Good job. I wouldn't like to try that. No, it's obviously not a comfortable chair.
Coming up on tomorrow's Live at 5, we'll hear from Kim Kerrigan once again about her one-on-one with Barbara Bush.
Time now for NBC Nightly News with Jane Pauley.
A new test gives America's young people failing grades in math and science.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. Sitting in for Tom tonight is Jane Pauley.
Good evening. American kids don't make the grade in math and science. In test results released today by the Educational Testing Service, the people who give college-bound students the SAT tests, young Americans rank far behind the rest of the world. NBC's Robert Hager reports on the figures and their implications.
To design the most accurate test ever comparing U.S. students to others in math and science, the government hired the best, Princeton-based Educational Testing Service. The exams were given in Korea and Taiwan. Japan chose not to participate. In a half-dozen West European countries, in the former Soviet Union, Hungary, even the Yugoslav Republic of Slovenia, and several other countries. The results announced today are devastating. Math testing of 13-year-olds. Number of nations tested, 15. U.S. students finished 14th. Science tests for the same age. The U.S. finished 13th. Math tests of 9-year-olds. Nations tested 10. The U.S. finished 9th. Only in science tests of 9-year-olds did the U.S. do better, finishing 3rd. Korean students scored a clean sweep, 1st in every category. Taiwanese students were almost always 2nd. Students from the former Soviet Union finished ahead of U.S. students in all but one of the tests. For example, when 13-year-olds were asked to decide which way between 2 towns was shortest by adding the mileage and comparing, only 66% of U.S. students answered correctly. 86% of Soviet students got it, and 93% of Swiss students. Educators noted that Korea and Taiwan have much longer school years than the U.S. Their classes are huge, nearly 50 to a class, but they're motivated, as the president of the Educational Testing Service observed.
In Korea, when the students were called out of their classrooms to participate in these tests, their fellow classmates stood and applauded as they left. In America, we often make fun of our brightest students, giving them such derogatory names. You've heard them as nerd, dweeb, or in a former day, egghead.
One other glaring difference, U.S. students watch more television, thought to take vital time from studies.
2 years ago, the administration set out to make the U.S. first in math and science by the year 2000. Today's results indicate we're further than ever from that goal. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
Those tests may be a bellwether for America's economic future. But you couldn't find a more graphic picture of our current economic health during this recession than NBC's Keith Morrison found in California.
I'm looking for work.
What you might be interested in is...
If you had walked past the Federal Armory in affluent West Los Angeles today, you would have seen what is wrong with America.
Thanks for being so patient.
They didn't come here to be a curiosity or to be part of a symbol, but that's what it got to be.
I am an immigrant from Europe, and I've been here for 35 years. I raised my children in this country, and I've never been without a job. This is the first time.
This was a job fair put on by the federal government and offering a few jobs in private industry and public service. And stretched down the street over 2 days, well-groomed and patient waited 9,000 people. And who were they? The heart and cream of the middle class.
I was laid off from California Federal Bank after 22 years. I was a vice president and managed a portfolio over $1 billion.
Most of them said never in their lives did they think they'd have to do this.
You'll go through a two-phase medical, a two-phase psychological, and a polygraph test.
Practice their pitches, expose themselves as the product of failure to an impersonal interviewer or to the media that watched them.
What do you think your chances are?
From the looks of this line, very slim.
And nobody was more alarmed than the man who set up the fair.
This is astounding and kind of scary to me a little bit. I mean, this number of people out here.
Who was here? Richard Wiggins on his birthday, 61 today, and 2 years out of work, a casualty of the bust in aerospace.
I'm not going to recover from this.
Hurts, doesn't it?
Yes, it hurts, and the indignity of it is there. You get very discouraged because you figure, hey, I could work.
And how was the job fair for Wiggins?
It's a freeze on hiring right now. There's no vacancies, but...
He was not alone.
Although we do not have currently work, we're going to put your application on file. Well, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a real job.
She didn't get one either. Keith Morrison, NBC News, Los Angeles.
If you're looking for signs that the economy is crawling out of recession, you can find some if you look hard enough. Today, there was a bit of encouraging news in the latest numbers on worker productivity and auto sales. And NBC's chief economics correspondent, Irving R. Levine, has found some lesser-known but pretty reliable indicators also pointing to better times.
It's no guarantee of clear sailing ahead, but signs that have been reliable in the past are indicating a more buoyant economy ahead.
We have sold over 3 times the boats that we sold last year during the entire show at this show already.
In past recessions, it's been an early sign of recovery when people started buying recreational items like boats. A more important signal, orders for packaging material such as paperboard made at this California factory. Orders up 10% from a year ago.
So when we begin to see a pickup in our industry, it's generally an indication that the economy in general is improving.
That's because every kind of manufacturing firm needs packaging before it can ship its products. Equally important, semiconductors, because they're used in everything from complex computers to talking greeting cards. Production at semiconductor plants is now running 10% behind orders. Fast food, places like Popeyes, where people often turn to first when they start spending money again on eating out. Food chain sales up a healthy 3%, the biggest monthly increase in nearly 3 years.
It's been pretty good. Year-over-year sales are up. This unit and over at the Columbia Road Popeyes that we also own are up.
How reliable are such signs?
Any single indicator can be misleading, but when this many indicators tell you that the economy is on the way to recovery, you can believe it.
Still, the signal of recovery most Americans will believe is a turnaround from firing to hiring, and that's not likely to occur until much later this year at the earliest. Irving R. Levine, NBC News, Washington.
Where Nightly News continues in a moment, the controversial issue of fetal tissue transplants.
Because some aches and pains don't go away when the lights go out, we've created Tylenol PM, specially formulated with extra-strength Tylenol pain reliever for those aches and pains that can keep you up at night. plus a gentle ingredient to help you sleep. So you can wake up refreshed in the morning. From the name you trust comes Tylenol PM, so you can rest easy.
When you receive your pre-approved Discover Card application, sign it.
Oh, thank you.
Because you can't earn cash back until you get it back. It pays to Discover.
Call me a trendsetter, but I was eating wheat thins before people knew why they were baked and not fried. Now everybody knows who needs a greasy chip, right? Besides, wheat thins are delicious. Delicious is still in, isn't it?
In a move sure to turn up the heat on the abortion issue, a Senate committee today voted to lift the Bush administration's ban on federal funding for transplants using tissue from aborted human fetuses. NBC science correspondent Robert Bazell is here with more on this. Robert?
Jane, this issue has become one of the most contentious in American medicine. Researchers believe transplanted tissue from aborted fetuses could treat many conditions, including Parkinson's disease, spinal cord injury, and diabetes.
Richard Schultz is a diabetic who must take a daily dose of insulin. In 1987, he got a fetal tissue transplant, and for a while he did not need insulin. Schultz was scheduled to get more transplants, but in 1988, when the Reagan administration imposed the ban on federal funds, his doctors stopped performing the operations.
I am angry because, once again, I don't see anything other than it being a political issue.
But it can be an intensely personal political issue. At today's committee hearing, Senator Strom Thurmond, who has been a staunch opponent of abortion, voted with the majority to overturn the ban. Thurmond's daughter is a diabetic. Fetal tissue is necessary for these transplants because it is not rejected the way tissue from an adult or child would be. The Bush administration is standing firm on the ban because it fears the transplants would condone abortions.
Sometimes science needs to take a time out when its goals come in opposition or collide with moral and ethical principles.
Faye Day took this home video to show how severe her Parkinson's disease had become. She got a fetal tissue transplant into her brain in a program at the University of Colorado that uses private money.
Why is it better to throw this tissue away than to use it to treat an incurable disease? I would ask President Bush that.
Now Ms. Day is vastly improved. Doctors say thousands of people could get similar benefits from fetal transplants.
This controversy will be debated intensely when the full Senate considers it, and it could become a major issue in the presidential campaign. Jane?
Thanks, Bob. In Pontiac, Michigan, Dr. Jack Kevorkian, the so-called Dr. Death, was formally charged today with the murder of 2 women patients. They were found dead last fall, hooked up to suicide machines that Kevorkian designed. In Indianapolis, an overnight fire in the hotel where the jurors in Mike Tyson's rape trial were staying forced a postponement in today's proceedings. No jurors were hurt, but 3 people were killed, 10 critically injured. Authorities said the fire did not appear to be suspicious.
The first time I switched pain relievers, it was from aspirin to Tylenol. Then recently, I switched again, from Tylenol acetaminophen to Advil. You see, I got these really pounding headaches, and I found Tylenol didn't always get rid of all the pain. So I tried Advil and found that for my really tough headaches, 2 Advil worked better than 2 extra-strength Tylenol tablets, better than Tylenol gel caps. For my tough headaches, Advil just works better.
And for a cold, try Advil Cold and Sinus, advanced formula for the cold season.
State finals coming up. A lot of pressure to win. I don't eat right, I get irregular, so I don't project a winning attitude, and the boys see that. I tried some natural bulk fiber, but I couldn't take all that grit. Then I discovered Sunrise Smooth Metamucil. No grit in the mix or the taste. Easy to get the extra fiber I need every day to stay regular. You got a winning attitude, you win, if you're lucky.
Metamucil, and you could stay regular for the rest of your life.
Hey, there's a really big Dollar Day sale going on right now at Ace. Yep, $1 buys any one of these Ace Best Buys. Over 2 dozen for just $1 a piece. Look for Ace Really Big Dollar Day circulars and come in today. Hey, Ace is the place.
Flu epidemic declared. Entire U.S. affected. What will you do? Doctors recommend TheraFlu, hot liquid medicine that works fast. TheraFlu, strong therapy for flu symptoms.
Our daily difference now in the 90s. Part 3 in our series on surviving in this unpredictable economy. Shoppers are going where the bargains are, turning away from the status-conscious 80s and trading department store convenience for discount houses and factory outlets. NBC's George Lewis.
In Seattle, the Frederick and Nelson department store, in business for more than a century, is on the verge of shutting down.
It's a shame Frederick and Nelson closed it up. We lose the best store in downtown.
The owner is desperately looking for an investor with $15 to $20 million in ready cash. Otherwise, he'll have to close up and liquidate the merchandise.
I don't feel like we did anything wrong here. In fact, I think we did everything right. The world changed, and I can't control that.
There was a time before anyone heard of suburban living when the world beat a path to the big department stores, when they were the heart of the cities.
What do you want for Christmas, Peter?
When movies like Miracle on 34th Street paid homage to the department store as a key American institution.
From now on, I'm going to be a regular Macy customer. All right.
These days, many of the old regulars shop in suburban malls. When Macy's joined the migration to the malls, it took business away from its own downtown stores. Now Macy's has gone bankrupt, and the list of other troubled department stores reads like a who's who of American retailing.
Well, the 1990s is very clear. It's heading in the direction of value in particular and price.
And where have all the shoppers gone? To smaller specialty clothing stores like the Gap and Banana Republic. To huge warehouse discounters like Price Club. The man in charge here says the department stores didn't do enough to hold on to their customers.
They had not continued to innovate, and they had gotten top-heavy with management, and they weren't doing as much for the customer, and I think they were just ripe for a new idea.
Another new idea, a batch of factory outlet stores in the middle of the California desert, about a 2-hour drive from Los Angeles. A lot of people think the trip is well worth it.
I can't believe the prices on this. This is like the top of the line. They're fantastic.
We get some discontinued merchandise. We get some seconds in here. We also get some merchandise from the previous season.
Here, clothing and housewares manufacturers sell directly to the public at a deep discount. It's happening all over the country.
I see that more and more outlet centers being developed. I see more and more manufacturers getting into the outlet business.
So, in this time of escalating change, how will the department stores stay afloat? Some retailing experts say the Nordstrom chain has a good formula for survival. Leave the discounting to others, position yourself as a specialty store, concentrating on big-ticket, high-fashion items. Give the customers great service in a classy atmosphere. The Nordstrom pianist is playing Misty. Maybe she's playing it for those other retailers who haven't kept up with the times. George Lewis, NBC News, Los Angeles.
More news and John Chancellor's commentary when we come back.
It was a dumb argument. It all started when she said she went to the GM dealership for an oil change. How long did it take, I asked. Less than 29 minutes, she said. Well, what, did they do anything else or just change the oil? She said they checked the fluids and everything. In less than 29 minutes, guaranteed. She said, no way, I said. Then she said, why don't you ever believe me? That's when I knew I was in trouble. Thanks.
Your GM dealer's serious about putting service back in the service department. So try Mr. Goodwrench Quick Lube Plus for a change.
Ask Angela Lansbury about aspirin-free Bufferin AF Nighttime.
Angela, what's this? Bufferin AF Nighttime? Yes, it's from the makers of Bufferin, for when you feel achy at night and you're having trouble getting to sleep. It's for both problems? Uh-huh. Bufferin AF Nighttime should really help. You see, it's a maximum strength aspirin-free pain reliever plus a gentle non-prescription ingredient to help you get to sleep.
Bufferin AF Nighttime helps put pain and you to sleep.
Paradise surrounds me. There's no place like this on land. All my cares, they're behind me. The world's in my command.
one cruise line has been named best in passenger satisfaction 10 years in a row. Royal Caribbean, the grand resorts of the 7 seas.
Nighttime, one of the worst times for pain. Pain that's hard to face alone. That's why you need new Ultra Strength Bengay. It's the strongest Bengay ever for muscle pain that's hard to ignore. Minor arthritis pain, back pain, pain that seems worse at night. New Ultra Strength Bengay with added power and a third pain reliever. Deep, penetrating warmth for fast, long-lasting relief. You can say goodnight to your pain with new Ultra Strength Bengay.
The New Hampshire primary is now less than 2 weeks away. Former Senator Paul Tsongas comes closest to having home field advantage, but it's not just being from neighboring Massachusetts that accounts for his surprising strength among Democrats. It's also his ideas. NBC's Andrea Mitchell.
Paul Tsongas understands the loneliness of the long-distance runner. When he began 11 months ago, no one took him seriously.
Is this for real, Senator? Are you seriously considering running for the presidency of the United States?
Yes, I wouldn't be doing this if I was not serious.
Deadly serious. When George Bush's approval rating was more than 90% in some polls, most Democrats were running for cover. Tsongas was campaigning in Iowa.
I'm going to try to run a campaign on ideas.
His chief idea, the need to rebuild the nation's industrial base. But for months, people didn't listen. They called him boring, too earnest, terrible on television.
They say that my strongest point is I have a movie star quality, that I'm a very charismatic speaker. And
what few people realized was that Tsongas is a man with a mission who has licked tougher odds than he faces this year. 8 years ago, he quit politics to fight non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a form of cancer. At first, there was denial. After a high-risk transplant, a remarkable recovery. As a survivor, he is passionate on the subject. When a student claimed that nuclear power, which Tsongas supports, can cause cancer...
Don't ever lecture me about cancer.
I'm not lecturing you, I'm asking you a question.
When you've had it and you've dealt with it, then we'll have a discussion. But do not lecture me about cancer.
His economic philosophy is rooted in his hometown, Lowell, Massachusetts. A dying mill town Tsongas and local businessmen helped revive. His sense of service was born in the Peace Corps.
And it, to me, was the defining experience of my life. It did a lot of things for me. When I went to Ethiopia, I was a Republican.
Some Democrats say he is still a Republican. He favors cutting the capital gains tax, calls a middle-class tax cut pandering, and has the nerve to tell the United Auto Workers not to bash Japan.
I'm not a Japan basher. I'm not a middle-class tax cut guy. What I want to do is compete, beat them.
But on television, his message was getting lost in the media.
With people listening to us?
He's trying to fix that. Had a relative coach him on what to wear and how to act in the last debate.
Let me finish. I got a media coach. You know, this is both red and diagonal. You'll never again see me with a tie that's not red and not diagonal.
Tsongas' determination is paying off. Polls show him leading other candidates who were thought to have star appeal.
Gary. How you doing? Good, how you doing? I'm a Tsongas man myself. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. I have a sense of purpose in what I'm doing. I really, as corny as this may sound, that I feel that I survived. And there's an obligation in that survival.
He doesn't have much money to carry him past New Hampshire, but he has ideas which have already forced the other Democrats to be more substantive in this year's campaign. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, Washington.
Joining me now for commentary is John Chancellor with a lesson on democracy from an unexpected source. John.
Jane, liberty is hard to get and hard to keep. Look at Russia, which can't decide whether it's going to be democratic or autocratic. The Russian Supreme Soviet recently forgot about democracy. It passed a law which said that journalists must disclose their news sources to judges and prosecutors. The penalty for refusal would be jail. When Boris Yeltsin found out about this assault on liberty, he hit the ceiling, threatened to veto, and the law was withdrawn. That kind of thing can't happen here, can it? Well, it can happen here. It did happen here this week. The people who brought you the Senate hearings on the nomination of Clarence Thomas to the Supreme Court are upset. They want to know who told the press about Anita Hill's accusation. that she had been sexually harassed by Judge Thomas. Nina Totenberg of National Public Radio and Timothy Phelps of Newsday have been served with subpoenas demanding that they reveal the source of the story. The penalty for refusal could be jail. That looks like a clear violation of the basic rights of these reporters, a vendetta organized by the Senate, which was embarrassed by its raunchy hearings on the Thomas nomination. But this is an embarrassment to us all. Boris Yeltsin couldn't stomach the idea of jailing reporters who protect news sources, and he grew up in a country full of gulags. Yet the United States Senate says it's legal. Liberty is indeed hard to preserve right here at home. Jane?
Thanks, John. The city of Ubar was one of the great trading centers of the ancient world. It has been lost for millennia. Now, after decades of exploration, it may have been found. The Middle East search focused on the desolate Arabian Peninsula in what is now southern Oman. Ubar dealt in frankincense harvested from trees in the region. Excavation turned up ruins buried for thousands of years. Archaeologists were led to the site by satellite radar imagery and space shuttle photographs revealing a converging network of camel trails, invisible from the ground.
With its powerful 16-valve engine, double wishbone suspension system, anti-lock brakes, and a driver's side airbag. Don't just think of it as a wagon. Think of it as an Accord, with a bit more space.
Special Accord leases are now available. See your nearest Honda dealer for details.
From the frigid North Atlantic to the treacherous waters off New Zealand, from oceans all over the world, comes Red Lobster's World of Lobster. Now succulent rock lobster, petite deep-sea lobster, sweet Maine lobster, in delicious combinations and at special prices you'll think the world of. Hurry in now, because this spectacular event ends soon. Red Lobster's World of Lobster.
Cutbacks continue. Recession.
Politicians.
Crime.
Pollution. Daycare. Not having any time.
Job insecurity.
You never needed it more. A new extra-strength pain reliever made to get today's tough headaches before they really get you. 1,000 milligrams, stomach guard, and the name Bayer. That should ease your mind. Introducing new extra-strength Bayer Plus. Now there's no pain you can't bear.
A1, it's how steak is done.
Call me a trendsetter, but I was eating wheat thins before people knew why they were baked and not fried. Now everybody knows who needs a greasy chip, right? Besides, wheat thins are delicious. Delicious is still in, isn't it?
He wasn't even our national hero, but ski jumper Eddie Edwards was the kind of athlete folks could identify with. He wasn't very good, but that didn't stop him from competing in the 1988 Olympics. But now, British Ski Federation says Eddie is not just world class. NBC's Dennis Murphy reports from London.
You remember Eddie, the earthbound English plasterer whose dreams soared farther than his ski jumps. Last in the record book, first in the hearts of his countrymen.
Basically, I think it's because he's a loser, but he loses with a smile on his face.
And sure enough, smiling today, even with his wings clipped.
Although I was very, very popular by, the common man all over the world, an awful lot of officials from all over the world took a real big dislike to it, and they hate me, so they wanted to kick me out.
They are the British Sports Federation. It's ruled that only world-class jumpers, the top half, can represent Britain. That's not Eddie, nor anybody else here.
I'm still the best jumper we have, and I should be given the right, I deserve the right to represent my country at my sport at the Olympic Games.
What a tumble from the Eagle's nest. Back in '88, he got a hero's homecoming.
Eddie, Eddie. All the very best, Eddie.
Fly, Eddie, fly.
Britain found out that Eddie sang as well as he jumped.
And at least I'll have a try. I may have come last this time.
Eddie was flying all right. restaurant openings, a rent-a-celebrity making a couple of $100,000 a year. A long way from sleeping in his car at the Olympics. But Eddie still dreamed the big dream, until he came to Earth in Austria in spectacular fashion. A broken collarbone and 2 cracked ribs. Ski authorities yanked his permission to jump.
I want to jump within the next 2 weeks. I'll be back.
But not in Albertville. The Eagle has landed. Or has he?
If I'm going to go over there anyway, I'll take my skis with me and take my suit, and then while nobody's looking, I'll quickly jump out and have a quick ski jump and show everybody that I'm, still around.
If not, well, we'll always have the tape and the memories of the no-chance amateur who did what we thought Olympics were always supposed to be about. He gave his absolute best and was loved for it. Dennis Murphy, NBC News, London.
That's nightly news for this Wednesday night. Tom Brokaw will be back tomorrow. I'm Jane Pauley. Good night.
Coming up on your 24-hour news source, a devastating fire in Winterset this morning, leaving a congregation without a church tonight.
Hundreds packed St. Ambrose Cathedral today to pay tribute and say goodbye to Bishop Maurice Dingman.
Kim Kerrigan joins us live from Washington for a special report, one-on-one with Barbara Bush.
These stories and a live report from Carlisle.
Trace Thompson will tell us about a smelly water problem there. All the news up next.
Last year, over 50,000 women found families to adopt their unexpected children.
We have a daughter.
They decided instead of abortion to tough it out and bring their babies into the world. They held to their belief that nothing is more precious than human life. To all these mothers, the families who adopted these children would like to say, thank you. Life, what a beautiful choice.
At the Olive Garden, at the end of every generous bowl of crisp garden salad, every bountiful basket of soft, fresh-baked breadsticks, and every warm, friendly smile, you will always find another, and another, and another. Because at the Olive Garden, the word generosity begins with a G, but ends only when you are happy. The Olive Garden Italian restaurant, where all the best of Italy is yours.
7877, Cargill's hot hybrid in the 113-day maturity range. Big, rugged plants manufacture the energy needed for top yields year after year. Plant moderate populations and watch its ears flex to produce outstanding yields. Remember the number, 7877. The company is Cargill.
Count on Cargill, hybrid seeds.
Live from WHO TV 13, where the news comes first 24 hours a day. John Bachman, Kim Kerrigan, Rick Silvestrini with sports, and meteorologist Gary Amble with the weather. This is News Center 13 at 6.
Flames leaping high into the dark early morning sky as firefighters battled an intense blaze in Winterset. By the time daylight arrived, hope had been lost of saving this old church, and only the walls were left standing. Good evening, I'm Lori Groves. Kim is on assignment. Winterset officials say it will be days before they know what caused that devastating fire.
The historic church was empty when the fire broke out early this morning. News Center 13 was the first crew on the scene. Church officials told our Sharon Holland they have lost a priceless piece of Winterset history.
The smoke was so thick the church became almost invisible against the night sky. The historic First Baptist Church caught fire about 2 o'clock. Crews from 7 departments thought they could control the fire, but the passerby who spotted it says the church was already in flames by the time help arrived.
Coming down the street here, seen a bunch of smoke, and got down here to the north side of the building and seen a bunch of flames coming out here by the furnace room.
The flames quickly spread throughout the 106-year-old landmark. Firefighters say there was little they could save when the roof came crashing down. The pastor of the church watched in disbelief. What were you thinking when you came up and saw it this morning?
That it was a dream, that my wife would wake me up sometime and say, hey, what's the matter? You know, so it just kind of felt like it was unreal.
Nearly all of the stained glass windows imported from Europe were destroyed. Along with other priceless artifacts from the 1800s, Only a few books and records could be saved. This is not the first time tragedy has struck the First Baptist Church. Built in 1886, it first burned down around the turn of the century, and now again today. But after this fire, some church officials are reluctant to rebuild. They fear the church's structure may now be too dangerous. In Winterset, Sharon Holland, News Center 13.
And some Winterset residents have started a fund to help the church. You can send a check to the First Baptist Church Fire Fund at the Farmers and Merchant State Bank, 101 West Jefferson in Winterset, zip code 50273. Meanwhile, the loss of the church is taking its toll on the members of First Baptist. Today, the oldest surviving member walked through the remains. Lloyd Sankey says, while the building may be a total loss, he is glad that they were able to save some photographs.
Yeah, it makes you sad because we've lost a lot of things, you know, and so forth. But I'm glad that they did get right inside the door here. They gathered it up over a period of years of pictures of the old church.
Once again, this was the second time that the church has caught fire.
First Baptist Church members will be meeting tonight in Winterset to talk about the fire and where they go from here. The meeting starts at 7 o'clock with a prayer service at the Four Square Church, located at 224 East Court Avenue in Winterset. At 8 o'clock, a meeting will be held to discuss the fire situation. We will have more on this for you on News Center 13 at 10. He led Des Moines area Catholics for almost 2 decades. Today, his followers said farewell. More than 1,000 people packed St. Ambrose Cathedral this morning to pay tribute to Bishop Maurice Dingman. Dingman retired from the Des Moines Diocese in 1987 after suffering a stroke. He died Saturday after a long illness. The service was a celebration of his life and accomplishments. The most notable, the visit of Pope John Paul II to central Iowa in 1979. But Dingman also crusaded for rural Iowa and women's rights in the church, and he was recognized for his tireless efforts to break down the barriers.
His efforts is seen here today in the religious leaders in several denominations, whose presence surely brings an additional moment of grace to our gathering. Bishop Dingman would be, or should I say is, pleased.
Bishop Dingman's body was interred at Glendale Cemetery. He was 78 years old.
Some concerns tonight about the water in Carlisle. The community southeast of Des Moines apparently has a problem with chlorine in the water, and that has residents asking questions. Our Therese Thompson standing by with the live eye in Carlisle with the latest. Therese?
Well, John, they're asking a lot of questions of us because they didn't get a lot of answers from the waterworks officials when they tried to find out why their water was smelling like chlorine. Now, they do know that you can't see the chlorine as it comes out of the tap, but you can sure smell it. It smells like a swimming pool in this house, and you can definitely see the results of all the chlorine in the water. This blue sweatshirt was washed, and now it looks like tie-dyed purple. Definitely a problem with that. Now, the waterworks officials did tell us that there is no real health risks involved here, but people at City Hall, I'm told, have been telling people not to mix their formula for their babies with this water, so that's a concern for people with small infants. Now, a lot of folks have been going out to the store and buying up the bottled water. As a matter of fact, we're told the store here is selling out of that water. We don't know at this point how long this chlorine problem is going to last. Apparently, a machine at the waterworks that puts chlorine into the water went haywire this morning and put way too much in. We will be talking to waterworks officials later and get to the bottom of that. In the meantime, residents are doing what they can, and we'll definitely have more on this story tonight at 10. John?
All right, thank you very much, Therese. Governor Branstad says he has a way to make sure lawmakers aren't involved in any conflict of interest. They should release their tax returns like he does.
I accept the fact that if you're governor, that your life is an open book and anything is open to scrutiny. And I think that the same thing needs to apply to other people that are in key positions of decision-making.
And in the wake of this year's ethics troubles at the State House, the governor says he is considering asking the legislature for a public disclosure requirement of tax returns for lawmakers in key positions.
Well, I'm excited about this next story. All week long, we've been telling people about our exclusive interview with Barbara Bush.
Kim Kerrigan spent much of the day with First Lady Barbara Bush, and she joins us live now from the Capitol, Washington, D.C. This had to be an exciting day for you.
John, it really was an exciting day. It's really a once-in-a-lifetime experience when you get to spend a full day with the First Lady. It's also an exhausting experience. She really keeps a rigorous schedule. We met up with her real early this morning at a school out in Maryland, and she took some time out there to read to some of the children, and she answered all of their questions. Then we headed back to the White House. When we got to the White House is when I had the chance to sit down and speak with her about 20, 25 minutes, and I could ask her anything I wanted to talk about. We talked about the American family. We even talked about President Bush's illness in Japan. I asked her if she ever thought that she would be the First Lady, and this is what she told me. Bush, X amount of years ago when you walked down the aisle with George Bush, did you know that aisle was going to lead you to the White House?
Absolutely not. I might not have finished the walk.
Might have stayed at the back of the church.
Yeah, I might have. In my wildest dreams, I never thought of being president's wife, and I really didn't believe it until he won the election. But do I think he's the best qualified man? Yes. And had I put my mind to it, I would have said, well, of course he's going to be president. He's the only one I know who's this decent and good and wise and...
There's a vote for him, it sounds like to me. She was really an incredible woman. She talked about all kinds of things. She was very candid. So I'm very anxious, John, to share that with our viewers at home.
Well, Kim, what else did Mrs. Bush talk about?
Lori, you won't believe it. I asked her about her pearls. Now, we got a lot of phone calls at the station before I left, people saying, would you ask her about the pearls? Are they permanent? Why does she wear them? I'm not going to tell you right now what she told me, but that's one of the questions that I asked her. She also talked about some more serious things. She talked about the American family and the deterioration of that, and what she thinks needs to be done in the next 4 years while she hopes they are still at the White House to make sure that that is not a fleeting institution.
Kim, I'm sure you went into this with high expectations. Disappointed at all?
Oh, absolutely not. You know, members of her staff told us before we had a chance to meet her, what you see is what you get with Barbara Bush, and that is absolutely true. She's just a delightful person.
Well, we're looking forward to your report tonight at 10. Thanks very much.
We'll see you then.
Well, in other news, someone walked into a West Des Moines bank today and made an illegal withdrawal. Authorities are looking for a woman who displayed a knife and demanded money from a teller at the First National Bank at 5th and Elm, right across from City Hall. Police